Greetings out there in YouTube land. This is Morris, man. And as always, I thank you guys for coming to my channel. Today, I thought I would do something pretty interesting because it's interesting some of the time you hear some of the backstories to some of these stories. And I'm going to entitle this video, Artists That Written Other Songs or Written Songs for Other Artists That They Had a Thing For. And in some of these songs, when you listen to them, there's a very faint reference to the person that they're writing this for or pouring their heart out. And then there's some that's extremely obvious. And the very first one many years ago that I found out about, and I found it interesting because I'm like, in all the interviews I've ever seen of Rick James or Patti LaBelle, I've never seen anybody make a reference to that song. And it came off of his second album, Busting Out of L7. It's called Spacey Love. He wrote that for Patti LaBelle, confessing his love for her. And again, it's one of those songs where it's real obvious. It's not faint, or I think that he was referring to her. He clearly states, if you listen to the lyrics, you had two angels by your side and they helped you fly, which was when she was with the group LaBelle. I forgot the two other women. They went on to become solo artists too. Nona Hendrix and the other one, I forgot her name. And at the end, he clearly states, he mentions her name. He said, listen, Patti. Then he said he loved her. It's like, whoa, that's kind of deep. But again, I found that interesting because I've never seen any interviews where they asked him about that song. And you would have thought that somebody would have asked him about that song in an interview, but I've never seen it. But that don't mean it never happened. So I felt that was pretty interesting. That's one of my favorite Rick James ballads. I remember when I was first starting out, and it was a band in Chicago on Stony Island, and they did that song. They smoked it. And I ran home the next day, I told my band, I said, we got to do this song, man, because we had a guy that could go there vocally. It's like, okay, we got to do this. And we included that song, and I played this for many years. The second one is, and I just actually found out about this one today, and this is kind of, I guess, what sparked me to do this video, because I want to have at least 3 songs to reference as opposed to just doing one video on one song. The second one, and this was a surprise to me, was Prince's first album, which was called For You. And to me, it was my favorite my favorite Prince album, because it was just a smoking album. I mean, all of his stuff was good, but, usually when your artist, your first album is going to be maybe your baby or your favorite because for years you've been preparing for this. For years you've compiled a lot of great songs and you pick from those great songs and put them on your album. And Prince's first album, he hired Patrice Rushen to do the string arrangements because it's interesting. When they marketed Prince, that first album, it's like, he did all the instruments. I'm listening, I'm like, I hear string arrangements and I hear strings, so I know he ain't doing strings. But, again, that was the marketing thing, to say he did all this when he did majority of it, most of it, but not all of it. But they marketed it as he played 27 different instruments. He did all this. And I'm like, I hear real strings, not synthesizers, but strings. And Patrice Rushen arranged those strings. I think the song was called, Baby, What Are We Gonna Do? And you can hear the strings, and it's, the strings are beautiful, especially at the end. That building, that crescendo thing, and she arranged that. And apparently Prince had a thing for her, and she said this, so it ain't like somebody else said it and somebody else said it. This came from her. She said, I was told that song, I Want to Be Your Lover, was written for me, about me, or for me. And I was like, whoa, that's kind of deep, because Prince had a thing for it. And the last one, Carly Simon, You're So Vain. Everybody initially thought that song was about or referring to Mick Jagger. But what's interesting about that, because it's not, but what's interesting about that song, in the background, Mick Jagger singing. So I'm like, okay, well, it ain't about Mick Jagger because he here singing with her. It was about Warren Beatty, because Warren was a player back in the day. He was a big time player, But I just thought I would post this video because I thought you guys would find it interesting because, again, Spacey Love, it's like, yeah, Rick he went there with her, he had a thing with her, for her, obviously, I love you, and the Prince thing, I want to be your lover. It's like, well, okay, which I think that's kind of clear what he wants to do or what he wants to be. And then the Carly Simon song, again, what was interesting was it was kind of complicated in a sense because everybody initially thought it was about Mick Jagger. But it's like, no, it's not about Mick Jagger because, again, Mick Jagger's singing in the background. It's about Warren Beatty. When I come up with some more of these, because I'm sure there are many more out there, I'm going to do some videos like this because I found these to be very interesting. You know, when I ran across this, and like I said, when I first heard Spacey Love, I'm listening to him like, Patti LaBelle. It's like, whoa, didn't know that. I never knew he had a thing for her. Because again, and like I said, just because I've never seen any videos or interviews with him, you know, mentioning that song, that don't mean it didn't happen. Because one of his other songs, one of my all-time favorite Rick James ballads is When Your Love Is Gone. It's like a prelude where he's kind of talking, and then he goes into the song, and it's one of the most memorable guitar solos I've ever heard. I think the guy's name was Tom McDermott that did it, because he's one of the guitar players for Rick James during that time. He's talking about his ex-wife, Kelly, and that's something that I didn't even know he had a first wife. I knew about the second wife during the time he was really doing drugs and did jail time, but the fact of the mention of the first wife, who again name was Kelly, it's like, whoa, you know, Rick is really getting personal here with his compositions. But I'm going to sign off now, but I just thought that you guys would find this interesting. Till next time, take care and thanks for watching.